Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to learn about the Saxons. By the end of today, I would like you to see how Britain was populated and affected by the different groups of people. I also want you to be able to explain the legacy of Alfred the Great and understand how the Vikings influenced Britain. The land we know today as England used to be called Britain after the people who lived there, the Brits. Over 1,000 years, many people invaded Britain and stayed or left their influence. The first invaders were Romans, who stayed for almost 400 years. The Romans are going to leave around 410 AD because their home city of Rome is being attacked by the Germanic tribes. Now there was no one left to protect the Brits. Barbarians from Scotland, called Picts and Scots, invaded and killed and wanted to take their country back. To stop the Picts and Scots, these Romanized Brits looked around for some really good warriors who could help them. They decided to invite the Saxons from Germany to help them. About 300 Saxons came over and completely defeated the Picts and Scots, making them return to Scotland. The Brits said thank you and paid them, and then asked them to go back home to Germany. But they didn't. Instead, they carved out a chunk of Britain for themselves and then invited all their relatives and friends from Germany to come over too. Eventually, the Saxons took over the southern part of Britain and called it Saxon land. But now, a new group invaded. These were the Danes from Denmark. The Danes liked Britain too, and they stayed. They carved out a chunk of Britain for themselves north of the Saxons. And then another group of invaders came to Britain. These were from Norway, and we usually call them Vikings. These Vikings liked Britain too, so they stayed and carved out a chunk of Britain for themselves north of the Danes. So these different groups of people all had a major effect on the growth of England and left legacies. Let's take a minute and focus on the development of the English language. The Roman Britons spoke Latin or local Celtic languages. The newcomers spoke their own languages, which in time became a language now known as Anglo-Saxon or Old English. The Anglo-Saxons themselves called it English. The country taken over by the new settlers became England. Some Britons settled down with the newcomers. Others moved west and north, taking their Latin Celtic culture with them. Place names give clues to where the new English lived. A place name ending in Ham, or H-A-M, for instance, shows it was once a Saxon settlement. Ham in Anglo-Saxon English meant village. Can you think of any around us? Hit pause for a second and see if you can come up with any place names that have ham in it. Okay, hopefully you came up with places like Northampton or Southampton or Buckingham. All of these places are within 5 to 20 minutes from here and all have that ham within their name. Take a look at this list of Old English words in place names and their meanings. We have Bury, a fortified place. Pensbury. Combe, a small valley. Wycombe is right around the corner. You've got ford, a shallow river crossing, like Springford. And Wick, a farm. Right up the street is Warwick. Anglo-Saxon place names often included people's names. And here are some examples of Anglo-Saxon place names, like Oxford was Oxenford, meaning river crossing for oxen, or Nottingham was Snottingham, meaning village of Snot's people. Codford was Cottesford, meaning the river crossing belonging to Cotta. See if you can take a minute and create some of your own Anglo-Saxon place names. Hit pause, create a few, and be ready to share them tomorrow. Now I would like you to take a look at this current map of England. Make a list of places that you also know exist here in the United States with the same name. Hit pause, create that list, and bring that tomorrow as well. Now let's get back to these Saxons. The land was divided into 7 kingdoms: Mercia, East Anglia, Kent, Northumbria, West Saxon land, South Saxon land, and East Saxon land. West Saxon land was eventually shortened to Wessex, South Saxon land was eventually shortened to Sussex, and East Saxon land was eventually shortened to Essex. When Alfred became king, the Danes had conquered all the Anglo-Saxon lands, except for his kingdom of Wessex. In 878, after beating the Danes in battle, Alfred agreed to a peace settlement with the Danish leader Guthrum. Alfred was given most of Mercia as his, and land in Northumbria. In the treaty, the Danes became Christian and got a part of England known as the Dane Law. This is where the Danes' laws applied and not Anglo-Saxon law. This treaty allowed Alfred the time to work on improving his kingdom. He would try to unite all the Anglo-Saxons as one people and to protect them by creating 3 things. First, a fyrd. These were working men who were called up to fight for Anglo-Saxon kings in times of danger. I think a modern equivalent may be the Army Reserves. 2, burgs. These were forts to protect the coast from invaders. Burg means defended place and can still be found today in cities in the United States. Can you think of any? Pittsburgh, Bloomsburg, Harrisburg, East Stroudsburg, and there are many others. Finally, he created a fleet, the first attempt at a navy to help protect England's coast. Alfred also created a warning system for people to gather inside the burgs when ships were sighted. Alfred also ordered the creation of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a work by priests telling the history of the Anglo-Saxons and their conquest of England. It would be continued from the 800s until 1154. From 871 to 899, Alfred the Great served as the first king of England, and he was responsible for the revival of law, religion, and learning. The impact of the Viking onslaught on literature and learning was disastrous. It was Alfred who restored ruined monasteries and churches, established new ones, and this did much to promote the learning for England. He pushed for the people to use English instead of Latin as their language. For fighting the Vikings for 30 years and bringing back peace and learning to England, he is the only king of England to be called the Great.